ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. According to the Bible, the sixth day of creation was a very busy one for God. He created the animals, such as horses. He created elephants. He created lions. But he also created a human being. In the case of the lions or the horses, it says that the species of lions were created. In other words, maybe hundreds of lions were created in one shot. But in the case of human beings, it was only one. It was Adam. He was afterwards divided into two so that Eve should come into being as well. So we have a couple of human beings, but in the case of animals, it's different. It is the entire species that is created. We see it, for instance, that when God is about to destroy the world through the deluge, he selects a human being in particular. It's Noah. He has to be altogether righteous because he wants to make sure that his descendants should have his qualities. He was complete according to the Bible. But in the case of animals, it doesn't say that God selected the deer that was the fastest, or the lion that was the strongest, or the elephant that was the heaviest. Simply a pair of animals of each species in order that the species should have continuity. So we see that the Bible looks at a human being and species of animals with altogether different eyes. In the case of species, it's important that they survive, but not necessarily individually. Of course, we also know that when we own a cat or a dog, we relate to them in a very special way. On the other hand, people that have hordes of animals can't distinguish between one and another. What they do is stamp them in order to know from which ranch this animal comes from. So animals are treated in a different way, even those that object to our wearing a fur coat because an animal has to be killed because of it, and also object to having a lion in a zoo. He should be in a cage. They want him out in the open. He should be in his natural habitat. What does the lion do in his natural habitat? How does he eat? How does he maintain himself? He runs after the deer that is the slowest, probably, and he eats him up. There is constant killing. Of course, some people say, but the lion only kills when he's hungry. But experiments have shown that that isn't exactly so either. There are animals that are simply vicious and kill just for killing's sake. So we see the case of animals is altogether different. But our vision of a human being is special. Why is it special? Because God created only one. And he also created in his image. He gave him something, a spirit, that makes him transcend himself. He gets out of himself. He can conceive of himself, and he can conceive of the entire universe. Maybe that is also a difference of how totalitarian regimes view society. For them, maybe they're just a group. They're a collective. The important thing is the collective society. The individual doesn't matter. This is why we see that the Pole and the Soviet Union and the gulags, millions of people were exterminated, all for the good of society. In a democracy, this cannot exist. A democracy gives infinite value to every human being. This maybe comes from the Magna Carta that King John had to sign, I think, in 1215, in the Middle Ages. This is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of the United Nations. In 1948, the General Assembly approved that every human being has inalienable rights that must be defended and are actually supranational, don't depend upon any individual country. So maybe this is the difference in conception of the Nazis, of the fascists, of the communists, that look for the common good, for society, for the collective. But the individual is expendable for the benefit of society. Democracy is different. Maybe this is why we have sometimes great problems in talking to one another. because we start with a different conception of a human being. At a Jewish wedding ceremony, we repeat twice a benediction that says that God created man. So my teacher, Rabbi Soloveitchik, says that the first benediction refers to man being created together with the animals. But the second benediction refers to man as being created in the image of God, of having singularity. The Nazis did not want to distinguish among Jews. They just gave them a number. They didn't want them to have names, to be individuals. But we respect the individuality of every human being. I think this is a very important lesson for society. It is only those societies that respect you as a human being, regardless of what you think, regardless of what your tendencies are, value you as someone who was created in the image of God. That's a society that really has future, and that is going to bring about progress, social, intellectual, and spiritual progress for all of humanity.